Despite his untimely death at the age of 25, Charlie Christian remains the most influential jazz guitarist in history. With the arrival of amplification, single-line guitar solos could now be heard over the rest of the band. Playing with the Benny Goodman Sextet, Charlie had a wide-reaching influence. His soloing style has been a model to all subsequent players, not just guitarists. He is considered by many to have been one of the founding fathers of bebop, and most guitarists would agree that he was the first to realize the potential of the electric guitar.
I think some people were against it because the guitar was basically a rhythmic instrument played in big bands, like Freddie Green, ding, 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 right? But he played more like a horn, and he listened to Lester Young and some of the trumpet players at that time, Buck Clayton, I suppose. Especially Lester Young, he was very influenced by him. And he just revolutionized the whole thing, really. Charlie Christian influenced not only my father, of course, but just about all the jazz guitar players. Wes Montgomery was, of course, also influenced by Charlie Christian, and he said the first few years he was playing in a club and he was playing Charlie Christian solos, note for note.
So later on, I was acquainted with jazz by listening to Benny Goodman's band, and they had a guy called Charlie Christian. And oh boy, did that do it, you know. Charlie Christian was a master, I think, on diminished chords. And then he'd run maybe a diminished something like this, just. That kind of thing, you know, and it keeps you doing this. So I liked him, and that started me to liking jazz a bit.
I think my spiritual awakening, the only one, usually my spirituality has gone the other way, but I was 13, I think, and I was working in different little groups in Cleveland, Ohio, and usually it was accordion, drum, no bass. This particular one, the leader was a guy named Angelo Vienna who played clarinet, and we went to a record store and he wanted to get a Benny Goodman record, and we played a bit of it, and I heard Charlie Christian for the first time. He was playing on a tune called Grand Slam, which is a blues in F, and he played two choruses, and I remember literally thinking, I don't know what that is, but whatever, I wish I could do that, and it was Charlie Christian. So he was my first hero. I never got to meet him, but he died when he was in his early 20s, I think. It was really kind of tragic, but he was some kind of genius, because everything I've ever heard of him and about him is remarkable.
Charlie Christian, we all owe him quite a lot, I think. He played the first electric guitar that I heard.
Right.
I don't think he was actually number one, you know, that the very first performer on the instrument, I'm sure he was not. But he happened to be with Benny Goodman's orchestra, and they were being popular. It was easy to pick that signal up in North Carolina. The fascinating thing about Charlie, I think one of the most obvious is that he was playing a new instrument. I mean, here the guitar was, up until that time, as I had heard it, it was sort of a background instrument, or if it was ever featured, it had to be highly mic'd, you know.
Right.
And here it was, he was up front with a sax and a trumpet, you know, and that was actually a new role for the instrument.
Sure.
At that time, I probably identified enough with the instrument to really appreciate that. And of course, I mean, he was playing very great jazz. After listening to Charlie and working out what I thought might probably be the fingerings he used and being able to copy the solos, and I began to understand what he was doing. He was playing on the chord changes of the songs that they were playing. He was improvising. And then I began to listen to other bands, you know, Count Basie, and particularly Lester Young, I think, was an influence on many musicians, including Charlie.